Hello, good evening, good morning, good night, wherever you are. Good afternoon. And a chance to settle at the beginning of this period, to find the ease that is present. You're welcome to have your cameras on if you're reasonably still. The sense of the breath, the sense of the body, the sense of here, now, the presence, the knowing. This is and we're here coming from a sense of wishing ourselves well, wishing to understand, to know, and trust this knowing as a liberation from ignorance, liberation from confusion and the compulsions that come and are part of that, and in themselves reinforce the ignorance. We have all the time in the world, all the space in the world, in our world, our time, our space, which is just this in this exploration, in this virtual joining or coming together, it's clearer almost that we live in our own world, our own time and space. And this is where the freedom is realized. So noticing, awake, alive and alert, and sharing. Also recognizing that this, our personal, is also connected through this awareness, by this awareness, in this consciousness here and now. Outside of time and space, not bound by time and space. In this breath. And in breath received, life, released, the out breath. and the release. The whole of the breath, the whole of the body breathing, the whole of the experience of this life. The rhythm. And the well-wishing in this. The settling in this, the untangling in this. From the soles of the feet to the crown of the head. The whole, the experience and the energetic experience that is known, knowable, is continuity and interest, sustained and released. Allowing the breath to reveal and the knowing to be known. And stillness and silence the knowing. This unconditional, unconditioned acceptance, awareness. This is the time and space. This is the now, here. All of it. We give attention, give life to the gift of life received. Releasing expectation, hope, and fear. In this realization, this is sustained. this gift, like this gift released. It gives the introduction of 15 minutes gives a little time for us all to settle, us all to join, and maybe there'll be some coming and going, but it's a Friday afternoon, Friday evening here in Portugal on a bright day, when for a few minutes in the morning the sea mist rolled in. The place was enveloped in mystery and damp, and then the sun came through again. This shifting, this changing, this rhythm is the way of anything that begins and then will end. Anything that comes to an end has had a beginning. This is the nature of time and space. Things end in time and space. Things begin in time and space. This is the separation and the nature of separation. A beginning and ending, and this nature of separation is the nature of stress. They are inseparable, stress and change and shifting. they, they are these. This is the dependence of causality, because causality is about time and space. And time and space is going to make beginnings and endings. And beginnings and endings are always going to be irritating in some way or another, because there's either the when it's not really understood, the beginnings and endings of things are necessarily more stressful than they need to be. Because in their nature of beginning and ending means that there's a there's a there's a shifting of energy, and that is almost a mechanical or a energetic shift and stress, and that's the nature of things that have starts and finishes. It's the nature of things that have edges, and that's the nature of anything that stands forth from the infinite, or from the stands forth in time and space, stands forth from the eternal. It's going to be in some way stressed, because the relationship to the eternal is then the the third factor, because you have the thing itself in time and space, and then the relationship, and then if you have heaps of other things, then you've got heaps more relationships, and that's always going to be a banging up against, or a rubbing against, or a conflicting with, because that's the nature of standing forth, of separation, of time and space. And of course, that is always shifting, and that's changing, and that in its actual essence of change is stressful. And then, the extra stress that we add to it is the confusion of not understanding this, and then wanting it to be other than how it is, wanting the impermanent to be permanent, wanting the permanent to be what is there, not to change, or wanting what is there to change. Not wanting to lose something that we like, not wanting to be separated, not or wanting things to be uh, uh, joined to what we like, not wanting what we like to change. And so it's inherent in this shifting, this uncertainty, this dependency, this nature of separation. It's not understood, there's going to be more. And that's the extra stress that we add on, and then creates more conflict. So giving ourselves the space and the time in this strange separation that we call my life, to endure and to examine on the every level this shift and this stress, from the very lightest touch and vibration to the great shifts and changes through life or through acts, through whatever happens in our life. When you come to meditation, you've got the chance to really notice the subtle and notice the peaceful. And in noticing and giving attention to that, the interest and the fascination and the concern for the extra stresses is less. And we have more opportunity to really rest in that which knows. When there's a huge experience of fear or a huge experience of some great emotion or some huge conviction, then what knows that? What is not that? And then if there's a certain familiarity with the softer or the uninteresting, then that gives some perspective. So, and then the knowing itself, which is the gateway, this trick of consciousness, this conjuring trick. One of the ways that consciousness is described is as a conjuring trick, because it creates this sense of separation, particularly with the sense consciousness. The sense consciousness, there's the sense consciousness, there's the sense object, and there's the contact. And then that's when things are present. And then there's the Vedana, the feeling that comes from that is dependent upon that. So but that's a conjuring trick, because the separation is also a joining. And that joining, that knowing, that's not in time and space. Sense consciousness is the trick that gives time and space. But actually it's dependent upon that which is outside of time and space. And that's not personal. Because the personal is always separate. The personal is always in terms of me and mine. And it's because we take things for me. It's the for me bit. We take it personally. This is for me. So it must be mine. So there must be an I here somewhere. And it's not real magic. It's a conjuring trick. It's a 3-card trick. It's a shuffling of the cards. It's a play that makes this possible. And when we see it, in the seeing of the conjuring trick, we're no longer fooled. And you're no longer enchanted, no longer under a spell. As woken up, Sleeping Beauty is awake. No, it's no longer entangled. And that the freedom and the ease that is allowing it to be Just, it's like this. Oh, this is what's happening. This is how it's stressful. This is the nature of this separation. This is the nature of, I don't want it to be like this. I wish it was otherwise. Why did they do that? Why is this like this? Why isn't this behaving the way that I want it to be? Or the other one is, oh, it's all my fault. It's all my fault. What have I done wrong? Why am I so wrong? Why don't I ever get it right? And I don't know what to do with my life. It's just life. It's yes, you know, there's a seriousness about it, but we don't need to take it too seriously. It's important, but it's not serious. There's the situation may be hopeless, but it's not serious. It's it's just the way that it is. Because the phrase that I think that I've remembered and probably repeated is something that I hear came from Ajahn Buddhadasa, that great uh, teacher and scholar and being. And, joy at last to know that there is no happiness in the world. That's that's great, because you're looking in the wrong place if you think that you can somehow. We look in the wrong place. We somehow feel that if I just get this right, then everything will be okay. I just need to find the right thing to do, the right way to think, the proper way to meditate so that I can be enlightened. It's not wrong, but it's not true. It's not the way to truth. True but not right, right but not true. It's the again. Those are phrases that something to notice that's, using paradoxes or using things that try to reveal the true, which is here, now, beautiful, interesting, encouraging. These are the words. Ehipasiko, come and have a look. The truth, and then the realization of the truth. Way of internalizing is a sense of, okay, it's like this. It's not supposed to be any other way. Wanting that which is impermanent to be permanent, not wanting that which is present not to be there, is just adding to the stress, because it's putting an extra complication, an extra birth in there, an extra stress in the system. And if you don't, it's not necessary, because actually everything is fine. It's the way that it is because it cannot be any other way. Right now, right here, this is how it is. This sense of separation is experiencing this experience like this. And it's not supposed to be any other way. And there's a sense of, well, I don't need to do anything. But there is a certain momentum and there is a certain responsibility. And, you know, there's a certain recognition that we can allow causes and conditions to be a blessing and not a curse, as much as we possibly can within the limitations of this. You know, as long as we do feel this sense of separation, then an assumption and a paradigm or a place of safety to stand or a view to work with is that in the doing of good and skillful things, that is a good result and it's fun to do. And there's a joy in doing it and there's an ease in doing it. And that's fine. And yes, this sense of separation here and now, this personality here and now is like this. It has antecedents. It has come from somewhere. No, it's not. It's not. It hasn't. It is dependent upon causes and conditions. And there are bits of this whole experience that we really do not understand and haven't got a clue about. And that's fine. It's not that we have to try to figure out everything. We can let the unknown be the unknown. And whatever terror or whatever hope we experience with the unknown, which is all the future, because in time and space, there is a past and there's a future. And we might think that time and space is linear, but we just don't know even that. But for the sake of convenience, we can just call the future the unknown and the past the bits and pieces of what we remember and what we've. And if we want to know what our past has been, then look at what we've got now. And if we want to know what our future is going to be, then know what we're doing now. And that's the best we can do. Because the future is unknown. And the past is just the past. Bits and pieces of it. We remember the bits that we want to remember, we interpret that we tell stories about it, and then we tell stories about the future. We project, but actually we don't know. And it's really clear in some people's cases when there's something dramatic in their lives. But on the simplest level, what we can practice is, on the simplest level, just recognizing from moment to moment, we don't know what's going to happen next. And that's okay. And then when we do, in the changes from one room to the next, from one activity to the next, to appreciate that this is going into the unknown. And what we can know is only just here and now. And then we can intend from this not to harm, not to harm, not to harm ourselves, what we've got here, not to exploit, just to try and get as much as we can out of it, particularly in terms of exploiting for pleasure, trying to get pleasure out of these five senses, because that's not going to, it's not a useful or intelligent or wise use of intention. And the way that the Buddha speaks is much more about what not to do than what to do, because that's easier actually to judge. It's then, and there's a certain caution in what we do, and care in what we do, and the recognition of the possibility of recognizing mistakes and errors and seeing how we can learn, so that there's less harm, less exploitation, and less just sensual indulgence. Because actually the senses are fine. The eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind, they actually really like to be not disturbed too much, not to be too irritated. when they're really appreciated, the softness of the neutral and not particularly exciting or painful experiences, those experiences are actually very calming and joyful. And that's fine, because the senses can be very sensitive. If they get overstimulated, they actually become numb. As we know, or they get overstimulated and they become irritated. And, there are all sorts of ways that works. But in itself, this sense of separation is, and any separation is going to be stressful. And it's not supposed to be any other way. If there's this, and at the very, very basic level, anything that stands forth, anything, any sort of separation is like this. Because there's the necessity of, if this stands forth, there's going to be shifting, there's going to be change, and there's going to be relationship, and then it just gets more and more complicated. From 0 to 1 is infinite, and 0 is all potential. It's not nothing. It's all potential, and that's it's that awareness, which is not separate, separates and joins. It's the conjuring trick. When there's a sense of no longer fooled, then there's a lessening of the whole tendency to complicate and entangle, try to grasp and cling like Velcro, or the little things that cling to your socks as you walk through some parts of the world, or hooks that hook into you. You don't hook so much onto things, you don't tear so much. And then you leave no trace of self-centeredness or extra complication. So this is just some reflections. I hope maybe it's of help, maybe it's not. And I do encourage you, if you do have questions or you want to have particular things you'd like to talk about, then I'll try and answer or give some more reflections. I know, and if this has been confusing, then I do apologize, but it's the best I can do for this evening. I have this much tonight, and see what else we can do. So I'll leave it for here and open for questions. Thank you for listening. And if you'd like to write your questions in the chat box, then I'll try and see them. Thank you, Suzui. Here are some questions for you. I always have a worry that I might irritate others with what I say. Even when I feel I'm doing something correctly, I still feel uncertain, and I'm concerned if people are not happy about what I say or do. And this creates stress. There's going to be that stress. That's the nature. If I offer a talk or a reflection, then I have no idea how it's going to be taken or received, or listened to, or whether. And it's the nature of feeling I'm a separate person, and it's not supposed to be different. There are people who don't feel that, and they just go through without any concern, and that's fine. There's a certain thick-skinnedness about some people. They don't necessarily get, but other people do, and fine. It's just different for different people, the degree to which they experience it. Even a rhinoceros at some point will feel something, and it's not wrong to feel that. And then to notice that the best you can do is is have your intention as clear as you can, and then keep a lookout. Is what I'm doing hurting? Is it actually harming? Is it? And then do and let go. That it's an offering, and over time, maybe the degree in which you get caught up in that is less. Maybe there'll be less self-concern about things, or maybe you'll be more. Maybe there can be more sort of interest. Oh, that's what's happening again. Aha. Oh, I noticed that again. And a sense of a smile can appear, even when you feel most embarrassed by what you're doing, or most concerned about what you're doing, or most self-conscious about what you're doing. So it's like this. It's not not supposed to be this way. That's if you think it shouldn't be this way, then that's the added complication that you make about it, and then you can almost get allergic to things because you keep looking for something again. Am I still embarrassed by this? Am I still embarrassed by this? Oh, I'm very embarrassed by this. But if you to have that balance, have the interest, but not take it personally, and then you can keep letting it go. Then you just offer, and then that's it. And you keep an eye out so that you don't actually hurt people, but you're not so concerned about whether people accept or whether people don't accept. Just maybe over time, just do the best you can. That's the best offering I can make with that. No, you don't have to get rid of likes and dislikes. And the one sitters practice, the one bold practice, is not necessarily about mixing everything up in the bowl. You've heard the story of Ajahn Vajiro, who, when in the early days at Hanam, he put all the food into a bucket and stirred it up in one bucket. Ajahn Chandapalo tells that story. It's not necessary. People do it. I don't really enjoy standing meditation. Is standing meditation necessary? It's one of the most difficult meditations, standing meditation. It's true. Some people do it more as like a qigong exercise, and some people do it for longer periods. Some people do it for shorter periods. It's more like standing, walking, sitting, and lying down. It's more like saying in any posture. So when you are standing, if you're standing in front of a class, if you're teaching, make that a meditation. When you're waiting for a bus, you can stand and make that into a meditation. When you're waiting in a queue of people, that's a standing meditation. You can turn that into a meditation, noticing the space and the pace of the queue, and try to even out the speed and the ease of the queue, so you can work with that. So standing meditation is necessary because you actually do stand. If you just crawl around and do crawling meditation, that's going to be rather confusing for people. So, standing, walking, sitting, and lying down are all the postures, so it's not wrong. Some say greed and lust type of person. It's not going to super. These types of people, the greedy person, the deluded person, the angry person. I think they usually just have three. But when you recognize that, well, I recognize all three here, not three separate people. It's not like they're three different people. It's just different times, different spaces, different things are more prominent. It's not like this. And if you say, well, I'm a greedy person, or I'm an angry person, or I'm a deluded person, you can do it so much, but it's not really true, is it? It's just a label that's being put on something that is just like this. And what I can guarantee is that things change. It's not always the same. Um, and that's not a refuge. It's not a refuge to have the idea that I am a particular type of person. It's maybe helpful to notice some things, but it's not necessary to fix it. Um, what's the what do I do? So I think that's done all four. And then for the impermanence of our lives scares us. How to lessen the attachment about our family and to make preparations for death and rebirth. The death is certain. The time is not certain. The actual that's the sort of conundrum, and the death is the big unknown because what happens next is like, whoa, I don't know. No, and so as I've mentioned, you can practice dying by noticing how you go to sleep and how you wake up, because that's the closest you probably get to dying. If you do sleep every day, and notice how the body don't. No, I've told this to people before, and they've not managed to get to sleep at all because they're frightened they're going to die. No, I'm not sure whether they're frightened they're going to die, but I said, watch whether you fall asleep on your in breath or your out breath, and that can keep somebody awake. Be careful. But you can notice how you are reborn, or what the rebirth is, because in the wake up, what sort of what holds, what sort of mood you wake up with, and that's why it's really recommended before you go to sleep to actually establish a sense of kindness to yourself and to others, to go to sleep with a sense of wishing yourself well, and then you can program your first thought, as you know, by just deciding, this is what I'd like to wake up with, and just making sure that you decide that before you go to sleep. And then the first time you do remember that, after you wake up, thinking that thought, and then if you keep thinking that thought and remembering that regularly, then you'll find that that thought comes up automatically. But you can also just notice when you go to sleep, how you go to sleep, and then when you wake up, what the awareness is like that right now. That's something you can do. You can practice birth and death that way. And with family members, you just have to reflect that it's very impermanent. It's just really not sure when family members are how they're going to live and die. That's from young children through to old grandparents. Then it's not sure, and it's not up to you. It's up to nature. And reflecting like that death is certain, but the time and the manner of death is uncertain, is really, really helpful, because it's true. And that truth is like, oh, it's like this. Death is certain. The time and manner of death is uncertain. Poof, that's a relief. Because it's like this. It's not going to be any other way. And anything you do is not going to help. And, and even killing yourself is not going to help, because even that sometimes fails. And trying to kill other people doesn't work either often. So, you just don't know. You just don't know. So it lessens the sense of and the trust has to be that whatever I've done in this life, has it been good enough? So I don't need to worry about death. Often when I'm consulted about somebody who's in the family who's died, I encourage them to feel that if their life has been good enough, then they don't really have to worry about the rebirth. So, the real encouragement is if you try to keep the 5 precepts, and that's something that you keep naturally, then the possibility of rebirth in the animal realms or the lower realms is very, very much less likely. If you keep the 5 precepts regularly, because that's something that humans can do, and animals don't have that option. It's really difficult for animals to keep the 5 precepts. No, they don't have any idea about it. They can be kind sometimes, they can be very helpful, but consciously saying, I want to train to keep the 5 precepts is something that humans can really do. They can renounce that which is unnecessary as well. So if you practice that, then that's a really good help to ensuring the rebirth will be okay. But don't, if you keep worrying about what the rebirth will be, well, then the place you'll be reborn is a place of worry, because that's the habit that you've persisted in. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Tanha is sometimes translated as thirst, and that's how I like to translate it as. So there's also the word desire that it's sometimes used, but desire is also used as a word for chanda, and chanda is neutral. Chanda can be, and it can actually be very wholesome. Chanda is also aspiration and a sense of willingness to do something, and it goes also into a sense of effort and that sort of stuff. But tanha is much more blind, because when there's a sense of thirst, there's a sense of lack, and when we're very thirsty, so they say. I've not been that thirsty, but I do know what some thirst looks like. And most of us have not been that thirsty in our lives. They'll say that you'll drink water from a bloody skull if you're thirsty enough. And people do describe what it's like to be thirsty. And tanha is that sort of compulsion to do something. And there's the compulsion and the sense of, I want the next thing, I want the next thing. What's the next thing is going to be? That's bhava tanha. And with bhava tanha is I would just want to get rid of, I just want to get rid of, I just want to get rid of. And then, and the kamma tanha is, what's the next? How can I be comfortable? How can I enjoy something? What's the next thing to, where's the pleasantness in this? I want something pleasant for my eyes, ears, nose, tongue, or body. I want to not be irritated. I want to just feel pleasant things. I just want to taste pleasant things. I only want to see pleasant things. No, I only want to hear pleasant things. I don't want anything that's not pleasant. And I don't want, I just want the pleasant. I want something I don't have to work at, that'll make me feel pleasant without, I want dependent pleasantness. And of course, that's always going to be ultimately unsatisfactory, because you can't always have that, because it's going to change. And tanha is what drives that. It's the next thing, it's the next thing, it's the next thing. It's the compulsion. That's what I feel is about tanha. Kamma tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. And bhava tanha is, I don't know, I just want to be an enlightened being. So it's a great bhava tanha. Vibhava tanha is, I don't like myself. I keep saying to people, I don't like myself. It only comes from a sense of, I wish to be better. I have an aspiration to be better. I wish myself well. No, you only don't like yourself because you wish yourself well. That's what I try to shift that for people, so that they don't get stuck in the sense of, I don't like myself. And the best well-wishing you can wish yourself is a well-wishing independent of conditions. So the happiness and ease is independent of conditions. Independent of conditions mean independent of conditions, both internal and external. Regardless of what is happening in the body of mind, internally or externally, there's still a sense of well-being. That's when Ajahn Sumedharama says something like, there is no suffering. And that's when you think, gosh. But that's a few reflection. Oh, walking meditation. Have you read about Ajahn Chah's walking meditation experiences? I'm sure they're around somewhere. They're probably in stillness flowing. All sorts of things happened in the walking meditation. Yeah, walking meditation is great. It's not, it's one of the best ways of gaining wisdom. It's a great posture to walk within, because you've got this movement, and what you're unlikely to do when you're walking meditation is fall asleep. That's a great help, and you're unlikely to turn off. And coming back to it is actually very. It's one of the ways of really uh, noticing things clearly in a clear way. It requires an effort to stay sustained, and then be really, really careful when you turn, because a few people have experienced more pain in the knees walking meditation than sitting meditation. Because if you don't turn softly, you can really damage your knees. Turning, just swinging yourself around, it's not good for your knees. What I tend to say is turn with your eyes. So let the eyes turn, and then the rest of the body follow softly. That's a way of turning with the walking meditation. Yeah, it's standing, walking, sitting, and lying down. Some people like the lying down. Ajahn Vajiro likes the lying down meditation. The important thing with that is not to move and not to go to sleep. Not to deliberately try to get yourself comfortable to go to sleep. Going to sleep is something else, you see. Going to sleep, you wish yourself well. You wish all beings well. You have a sense of, share the blessings of my life. And then may this body rest for as long as it's necessary. And when I wake up, just wake up to a sense of alertness, and not just roll over and fall asleep again and think, oh, I can't face this cruel world. It's and then get up, wake up. That's the way. I hope that helps.